And we're live! Welcome to RockSim Live. I'm Tim Van Milligan. I am the host. Wrong screen. I guess that's the right screen. How you doing? I'm doing fine. It's Friday afternoon. It's been a long day, and I'm tired because I've made an hour-long video this morning. And so I've been talking a lot. Been here in the studio almost all day. So yeah, that's what I'm tired of. I need to see the sun. So how are you guys doing? This is where we talk about RockSim Pro, and the launch visualizer. I'm here to take your questions. So I have the chat going, which is right over here. And so far, nobody has said anything in the chat. So usually somebody's saying hello. Curtis Howe says, number one from Curtis Howe. He says he's from Colorado and Michigan. Hello, Tim. Well, thank you, Curtis. What's your RockSim question for today? Where have I been? Yeah, it's been a busy week. What have I been working on? I've been putting out a new nose cone science fair kit. That's what I've been working on this week. We used to have this in the past, and all the nose cones were made out of balsa wood in the past. And then the person that was making the balsa nose cones decided to stop making them. So we discontinued the product for a couple of years. But now we've got a 3D printer, and I said, I wonder if we can make those ourselves. And sure enough, we can, and they're much better than the balsa ones. Like, for example, where you're not seeing my desk. This is what the science fair nose cone looks like. And this used to be balsa wood. Now it's 3D printed resin, and it's so much stronger. Don't worry about breaking that tip off. And it's a lot smoother. It's not perfectly smooth. It's not like filament 3D where it's like really big steps. This is resin 3D, so they're very fine. You can look at it and it looks like perfectly smooth. You can only, when you rub sandpaper over it, you can hear it. It's got a whoosh sound as you sand, but it doesn't take. I could sand a nose cone in just a couple of minutes, and it's done, and it's smooth. So you can sand it real easy, and then it paints like polystyrene. It paints so well. So that's what I was working on earlier this week. Last Saturday we had a launch, and I got to fly it, and it worked great. It comes with 6 nose cones. Yeah, it flew great. Just kind of giving you an idea of what I've been working on all week. Yeah, so that's available now. We're going to officially release it on Tuesday, but if you want one now, you can get it now. And I know most of you probably don't need to do an experiment with balsa nose cones, but if you have a student or a grandchild or a nephew, son, daughter, they're looking for a project, this is an easy one to do. And like I said, it's a lot better now than it was in the past. I had to redo the whole instructions too. Rick DeFoss is here from New Hampshire. And Rick Dickman, hello from Nampa, Idaho, working on my Zephyr, planning for a level 1 cert in October. Well, that's cool. We had a launch last weekend, and somebody flew a Zephyr, and it was beautifully painted. And he flew it twice. And I don't remember the first flight, but I do remember the second flight. He flew it with an H550, and it was just like a really super high thrust H motor. And it just plowed right through the sky. It was boom, it was gone. Beautiful flight. So if you want to put a lot of thrust behind that rocket, that's one to use. If you don't know what the Zephyr is, Gotta spell it right. This is what it looks like. It's a big 4-inch diameter rocket. We designed it specifically for level 1 cert, just something really robust. Good looking rocket, flies great, has a lot of room, takes a lot of motors, has a nylon parachute. So if you're looking for your level 1 cert, you can get one of those. That's what we recommend for everybody doing a level 1, because it's almost bulletproof. I had an idea for a level 1 cert offer, and I still need to do that. Guppy Guy says, hello from Boise. So we got a second person from Idaho. And he says, wet sanding for color coat. Sure. You could do, I think he's talking about the science fair project. Yeah, you could just, I do dry sanding, but you could do wet sanding. That would work fine. Where are we? So, we're here to talk about RockSim. So if you want to learn about RockSim, if you go to the homepage at apogeerockets.com, we still have this yellow alert bar on the top, and it's basically to say if you order a lot of products, our website is going to try to stick them into 2 boxes. And when it does that, it kind of screws up the shipping fees. So don't worry, we'll take care of you. But that's what that's about. If it's just a few items, it can go in 1 box, and then everything's fine. Anyway, so if you scroll down here to the RockSim Live training, that's what we're doing right now. And if you come here to How To and Guides, come down here to Software, you have a free trial right here. You can purchase RockSim 11 right there. So what is RockSim? Right there. The FAQs, system requirements, and version history are all right there. There's video tutorials right here, and these are like official how to get started tutorials. So if you're just starting and you never used it before, even before you open the program, I would say, click on here and at least watch, the first and second video. So that when you open the software up, you can just go to running simulations like that. That's the beauty of RockSim. You can do things really quick. Where was I? Also in here, we have the RockSim Live training. Click on that, and that'll take you to our archives. What episode are we on today? It's not going to tell me. I think it's 207, 208. Yeah, we've been doing these for a while now. Adding motors to RockSim, all that cool stuff is right there. What? I got no questions. It's up to you to ask the questions. I know how to use the software. Curtis Howe says 210. I think he's talking maybe 210 grit. I think 220 is a more common size, but 210 would work fine. We've been talking about doing a lot more 3D printing here at Apogee. Like I said, we can do nose cones. We can do the only limitation on 3D printing now is how big we can make it. So we're going to start doing nose cones at least through BT50 size and smaller. And we're doing the missile meter, what's the thing called? Flight caddy. This is 3D printed. These are coming out beautiful. That's what we're running today on our 3D printer is these flight caddies. They're as strong as plastic. And the advantage is you can make things that you could otherwise not make with injection molds. I don't think we could do this piece in an injection mold. it has too many undercuts, which you can do in 3D printing. So you can do some really cool stuff. We were talking about 3D printing. Still waiting for you guys to send in me a question on RockSim. So I'm talking about everything else but RockSim. We were talking about the capabilities that 3D printing allows us to do. I've had a 3D printer since 2014, so I've had one of the original resin 3D printers. It was sold on a GoFundMe, and I bought it, and it worked great, but the problem was it had a very small build plate. It was only like 3 by 5 inches. I could do things that were 8 inches tall, and the other thing was the software wasn't quite up to today's standards. So now the slicing software is so versatile. You can correct for a lot of different issues. So before, I could make parts, but I could only use them for prototype because it was slow, the build plate was small, and I had a lot of problems with failures during the build. Failures meaning like it would fall off the plate, it wouldn't stick to a plate, and so it wouldn't grow. With these new machines, they're so much better. Yeah, so now what we're thinking is, what can we do? It just opens up so many opportunities for cool things that we didn't have the capability of doing before. Because you want to do things in plastic because it allows you to mold things so that the customer doesn't have to cut things. We were talking about what was the name of that kit? We've got so many kits, I forget all their names. Rockets by manufacturer, Apogee, Quick Draw. So we were talking about the Quick Draw rocket, and what the Quick Draw does, it is a rocket that has interchangeable engine mounts. And let's see if I can show you a picture of these engine mounts. So here's a single engine, here's a 2 engine, and it has all these laser cut parts. And we were thinking, I said, if we were to design that today, would we do it any different? And the answer is absolutely, we do it different. Instead of doing all this in laser cutting, it would be 3D printed. And it would save the customer so much time. Yeah, so that's the kind of things that we're thinking about for the future. In fact, one of the things that I want to do is I want to go back and redesign some of the older Apogee kits. Like the Rotary Revolution. If I go into here, show you some pictures. So this is a helicopter rocket with internal blades, and it's got a lot of laser cut parts. Now there's some things you definitely are always going to laser cut, like the blades and the fins. You're always going to laser cut those. But it also has a hub. Let's see if I can find a picture of the hub. This is the hub. So it's got all this to make up the hub. And I was thinking, well, if I could 3D print that, what would be different? And it's just like, so much would be different. I mean, it would make it a better kit, easier to build. And when it's easier to build, it's easier to prep. And it just makes the customer's life better. And probably for no more expense. And it's probably a wash in how much it's going to cost. So I want to go back and I want to do the Rotary Revolution, the mini copter, and the gyro chaser. Just those three right there. Redesign the hubs, doing 3D printing instead of laser cutting. It would just make the kits so much nicer. We have Hey Britt. He says, greetings from Rolla, Missouri. My sister lives near Rolla, although she's moving to Indiana. What, he says, what would be the effect of mass distributed unequally side to side? Guessing RockSim assumes an even weight distribution along the z-axis. And you're absolutely correct. RockSim does assume a equal weight distribution. So that's a good RockSim question. So I'm in RockSim Pro, which is similar to RockSim. So basically, what he's saying is, if you look at the rocket, and here's the base view of the rocket. So what would happen if you put something on the side that was like really heavy? How would RockSim account for that? And the answer is RockSim would assume all that weight is on the center line. Even RockSim Pro assumes the weight is along the center line, I think. How would I test that? Well, let's put something heavy on this side. Okay, so how do you put something heavy on the side? Okay, so here's how you can test. All right, so let's run a simulation. Well, let's first put something heavy in here, and then we'll run it with the object inside the rocket and then off to the outside. So let's select this main body tube, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a pod. So a pod is a placeholder. It's kind of like I'm going to attach parts to the pod. So let's call this pod. And I'm going to say this pod cannot be ejected during simulations. And right now this pod is right here. I'm just going to move the location. I'm going to put it near the center of gravity. See, here's my center of gravity, and here is my pod. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah. Okay, and then click OK. So now the pod doesn't have any mass right now. So we're going to attach a mass to this pod. So I'm looking for something heavy. I want to say a mass object, but I don't have a mass object. So we'll go with a body tube. And I'm going to not select from the database. And let's make the outside diameter 1 inch. And the inside diameter, so it's starting right here. And we'll give it a length. 2.875 inches. Right now, this has a mass of 41 grams. So we have a mass of 41 grams. And I'm going to say OK. Okay, so now if you look at it in 3D, it's just a slug hanging off the side of the rocket. Now this slug is going to cause drag as well as having mass. Okay, so let's move this mass inside of the rocket. So to do that, you have to come back to the pod, double click on it, and then come up here to radial position. And right now it's automatically calculating the radial distance. So it wants to put the edge right along the edge of the tube. So if I uncheck both of these and then say radial distance is 0, so the radial distance from the center line is now 0. So it's right there. And I'll click OK. So now the mass is right in the middle of the rocket. And I'm going to change the name and change the color so maybe we can see it. Let's call this Sluggo Mass. And let's give it a color, a 2D color that's red, and a 3D color that's red. Click OK. Okay, so it's on the inside of the rocket right now, so you can't see it from the outside, but you can see it, or you know it's there. So let's run a simulation. Choose an engine. This is a 29mm rocket. Let's go with Aerotech F22-7. Click OK. So now we're in RockSim Pro, so we can do three-dimensional simulations, and we're going to see the effect. So we'll deploy the parachute at Apogee. Where's Apogee? There it is. So the parachute's going to be deployed at Apogee. Starting state, we're going to launch it straight up. So it's at 0 degrees azimuth, 0 degrees angle from vertical. I'm just kind of looking at my settings here before I launch. So let's run a flight profile and see what this launch looks like. So it's going to run the simulation, and then it's going to load the launch visualizer in just a second. While I'm doing that, Johan says, hey, you saw my transparent cockpit canopy? I think I'm on to something. I have not seen your transparent cockpit canopy. We have some canopies on our website, but they're not transparent. But we do have a camera hood that is transparent. We could do transparent canopies. We can't 3D print them because those there is resin that's clear, but because it makes it a step, you'd have to really sand it and then polish it. And you'd have to sand and polish both the inside and the outside, because if the inside had the steps in it, it would give kind of a frosted effect. But resin can be polished like glass, because I've done it. Anyway, so here's this rocket. It's sitting on a road out in the middle of a field somewhere, and I'm not sure where this is, but I just want to run a simulation. You can see the rocket right down here is almost dead still. It rotated just a little, but if you look at the trajectory, right there's Apogee. I'm going to zoom out. So this pink line is the trajectory, and it's almost like perfectly straight. It's like almost perfectly straight. I was seeing if it was arcing anyway. And it reached an altitude of over 2,000 feet, 2,098 feet to be exact. Okay, so that's with the mass on the inside. Now, it's got to put the mass on the outside. So to put the mass on the outside, we're going to go back here to the pod, and we're going to change that radial position again. So radial position, automatically calculate it. And it didn't like that. Only does it the first time. I wonder what happened. Calculate the radial distance. It doesn't want to. 1.5, 0.45. Right there. That looks pretty good. That's like right along the side now. Okay, it's on the outside of the rocket. And if we look at it from the base view, you can see it's on the same. It's right in line with the fin. That's okay. Okay, so now we're not going to change anything, and we're going to run another simulation. All the same settings, and we're just going to see what the flight profile looks like with the pod hanging on the side. Now we got mass off to the side, and we have extra drag on the side. The thing that I'm not sure of is the extra drag on that side, or the extra mass on that side. Is it calculating it? It's loading the launch visualizer. You can see that It's sitting off to the side. Somehow it's not showing my launch pad. I'm not sure why. Oops, I wanted to see this view. So the rocket is sitting right down there. Zoom in just a little bit. And launch. Okay, so the rocket is going almost as straight as it was before. And we're going over 2,000 feet, so that it is causing some drag there. I should have a little wobble in this trajectory. Let me pause it. Let's go to the rocket view. Close this one. Let's see if the rocket seems like it's doing anything as it's taking off. It's still like rock solid. It's rotating just a little bit. Okay, and then the ejection. So if I go back here, yeah, almost the exact same altitude. In fact, it is exact. So we're not seeing anything different. So that answers the question that RockSim, it still assumes that that center of gravity is along the center line. But very good question. Rick Dickman says, how do you check motor tube size from a downloaded file? I am trying to confirm a 29 millimeter motor tube on RockSim, but I haven't figured it out. So, so if I open up a new file, and so I got this rocket. Just from looking at the file name, you don't know. You got to open it. Save my changes? No. Okay, so here is this rocket, and just kind of like looking at it, there's no indication here of the motor diameter. So how you figure that out, here's the fast, easy way. You just go to prepare for launch, and then right here, it lists the motor diameter. So this particular rocket uses an 18 millimeter diameter motor. So just open it up, look at the, by loading a rocket motor to see what diameter you're going to need. Other than that, you could also find the motor tube here in the design. So, I would assume maybe that this tube no, that's not that. I'm trying to click on this tube. Can't click on it because there's so much going on. Yeah. So it's kind of like you're looking through the parts list, and the problem is when people design rockets, they just leave the generic names and they don't change anything. So if like this tube right there, that's a body tube. So this is the tube that I was trying to click on because I think that's the motor mount tube, but it doesn't tell me that's a motor mount tube. So then you have to open that up, and then you look for, this is a motor mount tube. So if it's selected, then I know it's the motor mount tube, and then it will tell you the diameter right there. But like I said, the easiest way is just go to load a rocket motor, and it's going to tell you, what diameter you should be looking for. David from Michigan is here under the name Purple Haze. And he says, better late than never. And Johan says, I think I found a way to make it out of PET. He's talking about his clear canopy. I think that's what we use ourselves when we make our clear canopies on our, not canopies, camera hoods. So this is a camera hood. You can see that it's clear. And it's basically the same thing. And this is vacuformed. And PET vacuforms really well. It's easy, and it doesn't. It stretches really nice. So if you're going to make a canopy out of clear, PET is what to use. Rick Dickman says, "Thank you. That cleared that up. Very nice." And he was asking about the motor size. All right, so that's all the questions I've got so far. So bring on your questions. Let me close this. Go back to RockSim. All right, so send in those questions. What else? What is going on? I know you're waiting for people to ask questions. Maybe there's something else I can show you on our website. What have we been working on? We're working on a new Mako kit, a Mega Mako. So here's the Mako. And the Mega Mako is going to look identical, except the difference is it's going to be 4-inch diameter instead of 3-inch. But pretty much it's going to be similar. Martin is working on that. What else? Yeah, we're working on redesigning 3D components. I've been having a lot of fun doing Facebook posts. if you're a subscriber to our Facebook feed, I think to get to our Facebook, I think you just go down here to the bottom of the page. Yeah, it used to be right down here where it says connect to us. You go to the Facebook, and it wants me to log in. I am not a robot. I don't use this browser to get to Facebook, so that's why it's asking me to log in. Oh, here we go, Apogee components. Okay, I'll save it. Yeah, we've been making these posts. I've got an artist that does some of them. So like this one, the artist did. Oh, see this one, I wanted to check on this one. This one wasn't supposed to go out until September 21st, which is Telegraph Pole Appreciation Day. And I don't appreciate telephone poles. So I've been playing with this, making posts just for fun. And I think it was last week I did one about Beard Day. People liked it. Where'd my Beard Day go? There it is. This is me. That I generated a beard using one of those AI programs. So yeah, it took the color of the beard from the rocket, and I was out at the launch on last Saturday, and somebody was cracking up about it. Anyway, this is so subscribe to our Facebook. That we just have fun with that. It's something just to keep us in the news. On our website, one of the things that you can do if you go to the home page, and if you're not already a subscriber, I would say subscribe to our newsletter. So the sign up form is right here. You click on that. When you sign up, you get a booklet of 50 free plans. It's actually 2 books, volume 1 and volume 2, and it's a PDF, so you download it. But if you were to print it out, it would probably be over 200 pages long. It's kind of like 4 pages for each plan. So you get a story behind the plan. You get the RockSim file. You get the templates, and then an overall view, so you know where the center of gravity is. But the real reason is to subscribe to the newsletter. Because every week, if you go back to the home page, we either put out a video or a PDF newsletter, like a magazine. So one week it's a video, and the next week it's a PDF. So this past week we did a PDF on, and it had an article, a great article by a guy in Argentina on how to track rockets, just using a compass app on your phone. And I used it in Serbia when I was in Serbia a few weeks ago to track rockets there, and the technique worked brilliant. One of the flights that my daughter made was a helicopter rocket, and it's separated into 2 pieces. So 2 pieces came down, and I used the phone app to get a bearing on the, and then I walked the line, and it took me right to the rocket. Although I probably could have found it anyway, because it wasn't like super far away. It was far, but not super far. And it worked really good for finding that rocket. So I was impressed. And and if you got a phone with a compass app on it, which all the iPhones do, and the Android phones, you can download a compass app, and try it on your next rocket launch. Just download that newsletter, and like I said, subscribe so you get them right away. Next week we're going to have a video, and that's what I was recording this morning. In my video for Tuesday, and we call it the advanced construction videos. And it's going to have nothing to do with construction because it's going to have to do with how did this trip to Serbia go? And I wanted to make it like a 10-minute video, and it actually turned out to be well over an hour. But basically, it's kind of like what I learned, what the experience was. If you were to do it yourself, what would your experience be like? Going to the World Space Modeling Championships. So that's what you have to look forward to. Get notified by subscribing. Rick DeFossis says that was a great article. Yeah, it was a great article. Johan said that Apogee has showed up a lot in his feed the last week. It should be once a day, although I think on Tuesdays it's twice, because we have the fun one, and then we also announce that the video or newsletter has been sent out and it's available for downloading. So just to get things to show up in your feed, and they're fun. It's like, I know a lot of rocket companies, they're pushing their products, and that's fine. Big name companies are pushing a lot of products, and and you go to your feed not to see, occasionally you want to see what's new. But when I go to my feed, I don't want to see products. I want to see fun stuff, and stuff to just. And so that's what I do. I'm just having fun and little tidbits of information, like we'll do a this day in space type of thing, random. And the artist that I'm using is using AI to generate this stuff, and sometimes the AI doesn't work right, and so it's even funnier, and it's all tongue in cheek. So Like somebody posted the other day that we did one on the Voyager landing on Mars, and it created a picture of a lander, but it wasn't the Voyager. So that's the kind of crazy stuff that goes on. Okay, so you came here for RockSim. So where's your RockSim questions? So on the RockSim front, programmers are still working on the next version of RockSim. The next, well, it's actually going to be a RockSim Pro, and I showed it to you last week. And the big thing that we have to look forward to is this RockSim Pro. RockSim Pro right now is $30 a month. We're going to make it essentially free, and I say essentially. It's not going to be quite free, but it's going to be essentially free because we're going to give it away free to people that spend $35 per month. So 1 month you might buy a pack of, 2 F motors is like $40. So that gives you RockSim Pro for 1 month. And then you come back the next month and maybe you buy a kit. And the kit is more than $35. So then you get another version of RockSim for another 30 days. So you can just keep doing that. And you're going to be buying rockets anyway. And your Apogee is your favorite supplier. So just keep coming back month after month, and you can get RockSim Pro essentially free. Each one will be 1 month subscription, but you'll be able to do everything in there. But the caveat is it's also going to have some advertising in it. Like you get a piece of software, and the first thing that pops up when you open it up is an ad. Well, that's kind of like what we're going to do. It's going to be ad supported and essentially free. So our hope is we want to get more people to use it because RockSim Pro is so much more powerful than RockSim, but not enough people are using it because it has a higher price tag. So we're going to take that price tag and make it essentially free. And Johan says that was him about the Voyager picture. Thank you, Johan. Okay, so Curtis House says the easiest way to get a parts list for a scratch design. So this right here was a scratch built rocket, and this was actually a plan in our newsletter. So to get a parts list, so this is the parts list right here. But to get this as a list, what you do is you go to print, and then you come down here to, you go to rocket information, uncheck simulation information. If you check simulation information, it's going to give you all the how high the rocket flew. You don't want that. So you want rocket information, but you don't need any of the drawings. What you want is a parts list. And then when you click OK, under additional settings, click over here and it says print this to a PDF. So when I click OK, it should bring up a print dialog. And if I hit print, I think it's going to print it as a PDF. And the problem is, where does it put it? I think it put it in the RockSim folder. So if I go to my applications folder and I find my version of RockSim that I'm using, and here's the thing, I've got many versions of RockSim. I think I'm using this one. Media? No, I'm just scrolling through here. It's not in the media folder. Data folder? Nope, not in the data folder. Designs folder. No. Data import. No. I'm not sure where it saved it. Let's try it again. This time I will, oops, not that one. I will go print, and I'm going to uncheck here, print to PDF, print selections, and I just want the parts list. Click OK. Okay, so this time I'm going to select down here, save as PDF, and I think this time it will allow me to select where I want it to save. Okay, it's RockSim Pro. So that's where it should have put it the last time. So let me go back there. Applications. RockSim Pro, what was that? Version 4.2.3 F6. 4.23 F6. Date modified. Oh, there it is. Rocket part default. I don't know what that folder is, though. And it says September 3. I don't know what, that's not today. I got a whole bunch of folders open. Let's put it on the desktop. And I'll call it parts list. And it's going to save it as a PDF. So when I go to my desktop, it says parts list. So when I open this up, so you can print this to a printer or you can print it to a PDF. And this is going to give you a parts list. So essentially it's the same thing over here. So we have nose cone, then body tube. And so there's a lot more information here. So like if you select from the database, it's going to give you the name that's in the database. And if you choose an Apogee part, it'll have a part number. So this is 10198. So if I go to the Apogee website, and I go to the search bar, and I go 10198, and you click on it, and sure enough, that's the 66 millimeter by 18-inch long body tube. And then we have another body tube, and it says it's, that's the name. But sometimes, okay, so that's the name that where you order it from Apogee. That's the name of the Apogee on the Apogee website. But if you look carefully, the length of that tube is 9.8 inches long. So it's not 18, it's 9.8. Then we have a bulkhead, and it gives you dimensions. And again, this is an Apogee part. This is why it's so important to order Apogee parts, because we try to make it easy for you. Look at all these Apogee parts in there. You know, if it's something that is custom, you're not going to have all this extra information. You'll have this information down here, but not this name. So then you can, you know, it makes it easy to order parts when you buy from Apogee and use parts in the Apogee database. Okay, so here's one right here. This was a public missiles fin, but I have no idea what that is. It's a fin A03 from public missiles. And then we have a box, and it's custom material. Another fin set. So it gives you parts. It's a long parts list. This is 7 pages long. So that's how you do a parts list. Johan says, it's cool anyway. Facebook is a much happier place than Twitter these days. Yeah, we have a Twitter account for Apogee, but I don't know how to post on it. And right now I'm doing all the social media myself. Estes says, how can I model transient instability in RockSim during the coast phase of a high thrust short burn flight? Transient instability. So, all right. So let me see if this version of RockSim Pro, it would only be RockSim Pro that you could do it. And I am just double checking if this particular version, yes. Okay, I can show you in this version. First, let me find a different design file. Aero B170, 18 millimeter. I'm just looking for a simple design. Oh, and I crashed. That's not supposed to happen. Close that. I wonder if this, I can't see who Estes is. Cancel. If it's somebody that, if it's Adam, I don't know, you can't see the little icon. So I know people at Estes do have RockSim because I gave them a copy. I mean, even Estes should have the best software. Aero B300. Okay, close enough, simple enough. So this instability is going to be caused by typically thin flutter or a tube that is flexible. Now we can't model a tube that is flexible because RockSim assumes everything is rigid. It even assumes fins are rigid. But there's a new feature in RockSim Pro that it will be in the next version that's going to be released, which is the one that's going to be essentially free. But in there, if you go to the design components, I can tweak the fin so that the fin shifts and makes the rocket unstable. So if I go to the fin set and I go to, well, first of all, you can calculate at what speed the fin is going to start fluttering. So let's say it's, I'm not sure which one has a shear modulus. So in the database, we have all these materials. And if you knew the shear modulus of your fin, which is like how stiff it is, it would show the shear modulus here. Basswood does not have a shear modulus. Let's try balsa wood. Okay, so this one does have a shear modulus. And it's already calculated the speed that the fin is going to start fluttering. And that's going to be 311 feet per second. And you can change that to miles per hour if you want, about 212 miles per hour. So if I can get this rocket going 212, and that's what he's talking about during the coast phase of a high thrust, short burn flight. So in order to get up to that speed, it's got to be a short burn, high thrust motor. And can we get this up to that speed? Let's take a look. So this is a 29, with a 29 millimeter motor, I guarantee you I can get up to that speed. So for a high thrust motor, so choose it by burn time. And you can see we got a lot of high thrust motors here. So even I'm looking for like a G142 is technically a high power motor because it's greater than 80. I was looking for a G80. Come on, G80. Okay, so here's a G80. This has a burn time of 1.5 seconds. And ejection delay, let's say it's a 10-second delay. And flight profile, so remember before we were just launching straight up. And I don't know if there was any wind or not. It's running the simulation here. Got the spinny ball. Okay, so I don't know where the launch pad is. But anyway, the rocket just blasted it into space. You see how fast that took off. And so if we look at here, the max, I know I went faster than 62 miles per hour. Altitude at deployment, so something didn't work here. What's going on? Let's try this again. Let's see if our setup is deploy now. You want to deploy at Apogee. And launch that again. Okay, so now we're at 551 miles an hour. So we're well above that threshold of 212. So at 212 miles per hour, there's a chance that these fins could start fluttering because it's just balsa wood. So we're exceeding the speed of balsa. And you know what happens then is then your balsa wood just flies apart. As soon as it starts to flutter, you don't even see it. It just, and your fin is gone. So if I go, but RockSim didn't show that in the flight. So like what would happen? So I can actually go here to these fins and I can say radial position. And we have a cant angle. So I could say that these are going to cant by 90 degrees. If you look at that, what happened was now the fins, if I look at it from the base view, the fins are at a 90 degree. And what's going to happen, basically, if it starts fluttering, and we're going to say enable cant angle changes. And this, by clicking this button, it says it's going to angle during the flight. So the unfortunate thing is I can't say to do it at 212 miles an hour. I can do it at a specific time in flight. So we're going to start at an initial of 0 degrees, and then the final cant angle is at 90. But it's it's something that it's not going to do exactly what you want, but it's going to be fun anyway. Click OK. So here's the rocket, and now if I do a launch, leave everything the same, but if you look under flight events, now I have a new parameter called fin cant, and I can say these are my choices. I can do a time or an altitude. I can say time greater than 0. This one doesn't work. I was hoping there would be one that's at a velocity. I could do velocity greater than. Some of these other ones, like parachute deployment, I can change other parameters, like Mach number, which is a velocity. But for fin cant, I can only do time and altitude. So at a time of I think the burn time was 1.2 seconds or 1.5 seconds. So let's go 2.0 seconds. And then hit tab and hit flight profile. And let's see what this looks like. 421 Rant says, if using multiple engines, 6, and you want to angle them for increased stability using the the center line through the rocket should the angle be pointed between the CP and the CG? Okay, so that was a good question. Okay, so here is this rocket, and it's going to take off, and at 2 seconds, the fin's canted, although in the flight profile it doesn't show them moving. So let's look at the trajectory and see if we can see anything in the trajectory. No, not really. Rocket is still going straight even after 2 seconds. So 2 seconds is right there in flight. So at that point, they cant over. But you can tell, I mean, the rocket, it still went 2,500 feet. But it was a lot lower than the 3,000 feet originally before we canted the fins. So it's kind of acting like drag brakes. The fins are still there because it still assumes that they're rigid enough not to break off. So shedding parts. So Estes, yeah, we can't do that. But we played with it and we had some fun. 421 rants, it's 3 o'clock. If multiple engines and you want to angle them for increased stability using the center line through the CP, should the angle be pointed between the CP and the CG? The answer is no. It should be pointed at the CG. Holy cow, this one, the CG is way up there. Why is that CG? Do I have a mass override turned on? Use the mass below. See, yeah, I do have a mass. Yeah. So you want, if you were to angle the motor tube, you want to angle it not between these two, but actually slightly ahead of the center of gravity. And I did a newsletter article about that. And we talked about why you do that. Let me see if I can find that newsletter. I can point you to that. It's a Pika Flight newsletter. All newsletter. Let's try searching. To do a search on the web page, you'll get this bar here at the top right. Let's try cant. Make centering rings for canted motors. That's one of them. 226 simulated canting motors in RockSim. Stabilize your rockets. 363. What does 363 look like? Maybe I did it as a video. Okay, so here's the motors being canted. So this is how you make a centering ring for them. How to draw the arc. Let me go back here to the website. So that was newsletter 363. How-to and guides, Pika Flight newsletter. No, we want advanced construction videos, all videos. Find file, canted. How to build clanted engine. I'm just looking for an image to show you. Shoot. I think this video has an image, but you want that, ideally, because what's going to happen is as the motors are burning, the center of gravity is moving forward, and you still want it just a little bit ahead of the center of gravity. So by placing it, angling it to where it's a little bit ahead, you're better chancing of getting that center of gravity where it's going to be at burnout of the motor. And that's why you want to be a little bit ahead. Normally you'd want it like if it was a fixed thrust and you didn't lose any weight, you want to go right at the center of gravity because because the rocket's always going to spin about the center of gravity. So if they're pointed at the center of gravity and everything is equal, everything should balance out. Yeah, so everything should balance out. But since you're going to lose weight from the motors burning, the center of gravity is going to shift forward. So ideally it's never going to be at the center of gravity except for at one specific moment in time. If you angle it right at the center of gravity. So hopefully that kind of explains what you would do. And I think we talked about doing that. RockSim won't show you that the motors are canted, but you can actually do canted motors in RockSim because in RockSim Pro, because you can angle the thrust vector in RockSim Pro. Yeah. Those are hard questions, those last two. So thank you for those. You're making me think. Yeah, so yeah, we're past 3 o'clock. So we'll be back again next Friday. I'm not planning on going anywhere until October. So the next few weeks we should still be here doing these RockSim lives. Thanks for your questions. If you're watching on YouTube and not live, you can always email us your questions and we'd love to answer them. So if you're having a launch tomorrow, I hope you have great weather. We are off tomorrow. We had a great launch last week. We had great weather. This is the time of year where the weather just gets really nice, right up until it turns cold. Okay, so let me get you out of here. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go out and launch something.